So your employees, the way they are engaged in the organization drives what kind of productivity, what is the revenue that the company is going to be generating. All of that gets driven by what is the kind of engagement that people have. So some of these strategies that we normally talk about, it's very essential to make people, feel that they belong to the place. Okay, making them heard, hear them out, make them a part of your decision making. It's important to kind of hear their viewpoints. A lot of times, a lot of them keep working on the ground. They have a lot of valuable insights to share. So take those inputs, give them a culture which makes them feel that they are cared for.
I'm Jitendra Singh, banker turned entrepreneur and author of the book Pep Hack Mastering the Art of Selling. I welcome you to read my story where I interview authors, speakers, coaches, celebrities, entrepreneurs, and more. Today I have with me Miss Richa Mehta. She is a highly accomplished professional with a diverse range of expertise. As a co-founder of EDEVARCON Consulting Guild DLL, she excels in the field of OD, organizational development practices, behavioral skills training, emotional intelligence, and HR consulting. She holds a master's degree in social work and advanced diploma in HR and Counselling Psychology. Her credentials also include certifications as a storyteller from Kathalaya, a trained and empaneled trainer from Tata Institute of Social Science, and expertise in emotional intelligence training excellence from Dale Carnegie, strategic learning and development, OD, NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming Practitioner, theater games for trainers, and Virtual Facilitation Skills. With over 22 years of experience, she has made a significant contribution in the area of consulting, training, and skill development for both organizations and individuals. She conducts workshops and training sessions on a wide range of topics such as capacity building through communication skills, business etiquettes, creative thinking, competency development programs, employability enhancement programs, emotional intelligence, recruitment strategies, organizational skills, campus to corporate programs. A strong belief in every individual potential drives her passion for engaging and developing teams and individuals. She strives to help them unlock their true potential and capabilities, achieve their goals, and exceed their own expectations. Her extensive expertise, experience, coupled with her people-oriented skills, approach has established her as an individual professional in the realm of consulting, training, and skill development. Her dedication to empowering individuals and facilitating their growth continues to create a positive impact on organizations and individuals alike. So today she will be discussing with us about her life journey. So let us hear from her. Welcome, ma'am. The platform is open, and now over to you.
Thank you so much, Jitendra, for inviting me over. Just a small correction. The name of my company is EDEVARCON, and it's a consulting guild. So I hold it along with my husband. He's the founder of the company, and I take care of the HR and the soft skills part of the organization. We have other consultants who work with us, but in different other capacities. But that is what I normally do. I think that's the perk of being married to the founder of the company. I take care of the HR and consulting part of it, but majorly it's because I think it's the passion that drives. I just love to work with people, love to understand them, and all throughout whatever 22 years of my career has been, I have grown in such a way that I can interact a lot more with them, understand what are the motivators, what are the stressors, what are the things that really drives them to kind of bring the results, what are the potentials that they hold, and help them achieve those potentials, and also a lot of times help them see beyond the potential. A lot of times this is what happens, that we as individuals, we just kind of get tied up or get boxed in a certain way of functioning. What I essentially do is I help you, one, identify what is your potential, two, obviously achieve it, and three, stretch beyond that and kind of overachieve whatever that you're looking at. So that is in a nutshell the kind of work that I have been doing, and I'm absolutely glad to share this platform with you and share some tidbits of the journey that I have had in these 22 years.
So it's a pleasure to have you here, ma'am. So before we
Thank you.
move on to the first question, I'd like to request everyone to like, share, and subscribe on to the channel. So, ma'am, if I ask you, like, how did your past life has affected the person you wanted to be in your life and what you are?
Okay, so if you really ask me that what really ignited this passion is something which I don't know if it kind of got ignited by the past life that I had, or the way I was growing up as a kid. But I come from a family where everybody was working. So when we were young, in those days we don't really understand ki stressors kya hai, motivators kya hai, ya drivers kya hai. But one thing which I very clearly understood was, because my dad was working, my mom was working, everybody else in the family was also working. I was like, we had a very extended family. So my uncles, aunts, my chacha, masi, everybody was, at very close quarters where I saw everybody working. At that age, it was difficult. We couldn't really pinpoint ki, acha, theek hai, how they really get appreciated, or how do they really get inspired to work like in a certain way. But we could definitely pinpoint, today they had a good day at the office, today they had a bad day at the office, because, the kind of discussions that used to happen at home, or a lot of times, the kind of environment that got created, I could very clearly make out, whenever they had this appreciation, there was a lot of excitement, I have been recognized for such and so and so thing. And also one thing which kind of, really came up very drastically was that, not every time these appreciations were in the form of money or in the form of promotion. A lot of times these appreciations were just recognitions or simple appreciations that you would do in terms of the team. But what really intrigued me was ki, how our work life and our personal lives are so interconnected with each other. Every day you would spend 8 hours, 10 hours at work. Today we keep talking about, how do we create that work life balance, या दोनों lives हैं, दोनों को आप अलग अलग करो, this is my personal, this is my professional. But somehow, I've always felt that, it is just very, very intertwined with each other. It's very difficult, and not everybody is kind of, emotionally intelligent to say, acha, theek hai, I'm going to put my office ka worries or put my office ka stress outside, or put my ghar ka stress outside and perform to my optimum level when I am in the office. All of this, somewhere kind of, gave me an understanding that, how people function, or how, we as individuals carry out our lives. And once I started studying, and, I had these subjects in my college where I was kind of, studying HR, I was studying organization development, I was understanding organization behavior. And it kind of, just became my passion to understand, because one, I had seen so much of a work life in my own house, and also to kind of, understand that, how can you make this transition, the day-to-day transition, ghar se office and office se ghar, or, your work life being more smooth. It kind of, where you feel that, you are more appreciated, you're more engaged in whatever that you're doing. So that kind of, decided that how exactly would I want to really take my future endeavors. So when I started off with my journey, when I started off with my career, it was more about talent acquisition. I started working as talent acquisition. But over a period of time, also because I had that bent in me, and also because I realized that, it is the talent development part which really excites me more than the acquisition part. Not that, it's any less. I think it's a very, very challenging job today, at least in today's world, with attrition levels being so high. But what was very interesting for me, and what was very inspiring for me, was to kind of, create this space for myself where talent gets developed. And that's where, I started honing all the skills that I had. The certifications were done in such a manner that, I could help people bring in different tools to kind of, understand people, especially at work, and see that these transitions are as smooth as they can be. Opening up, creating safe spaces to discuss, so that, people can talk, they can share what exactly is happening, at the back of their minds, and why they are behaving in a certain way. So, all of that kind of, laid the premise of whatever that I wanted to do. And then I have been working very actively in this field from the past 3 years now. But I have had this whole journey of kind of, building this entire thing up, and bringing in the experiences, the right kind of tools to take this forward from there. So that's how it has been.
Nice. So if I talk about your passion things in your life, so what are those things, and what is the role of motivation and inspiration on this further?
So I think, when we talk about motivation and inspiration, motivation is something like we normally, as psychologists would define it, it's either intrinsic or very extrinsic. For
Right,
me, it is a more intrinsic thing. It's not driven from outside. It's something that comes from within. So even if I have my low days, I would still be able to kind of, tell myself that, nay, nay, nay. I mean, you just need to go out and just do it.
right,
But that said, a lot of people derive a lot of motivation from external, attributes and from people around them, so that they can pep themselves up. I think over a period of time, what I've really realized is that the more you depend on your own self, whether it is for motivation or whether you get inspired looking at role models, you kind of see what kind of people have been working in these areas, what kind of work they have been doing. It's such an amazing journey when you're working with people. It's just like this, that you have these very, very dynamic resource that's there in your hand. You don't know that how one is going to behave, or how one is going to really perceive things differently. So it's like, there's too much of a surprise element there. I think, that just keeps me on my toes all the time, and it just keeps me going, that, let's explore what's going to happen today. Even when I go in for training sessions, when I'm going for diagnostic sessions for, when we are conducting these employee engagement surveys and all of that, the answers, the perspectives are just so different every time. And I think,
right.
that itself is kind of, good enough to keep me motivated to keep going, that, what exactly is going to happen today? What is this interview going to open up for me? Or what is this training session going to bring for me? And what are those perspectives going to be like? So I'm a kind of a person, I just derive a lot of that motivation from there, of what is happening around me, and then kind of, keep building on it and keep telling myself that, just keep moving on this path, and just kind of, just keep doing, because this is something which really gives me the kick that is required for me to get up every morning, look at my schedule and say, "Acha, theek hai, aaj ye karna hai." So
Right.
that kind of a thing.
So that gives you an inner kick actually.
Yeah. So for me, it is very, very intrinsic. It is all driven from within.
Right. So if I talk about your work and experiences, like how you started working, what all you did, and how you got into your training and development activities.
Okay, so as I said, I had started working. When I started off in my career, I started working with the HR consulting firm. It was a pretty big name at that point of time. And I started working with them. We were working in the space of talent acquisition.
Right.
Now, my first encounter with trainings happened when we were were invited over from the organization for an outbound training. What really happened in that outbound training was that, there were teams, there were leaders, and the kind of safe space, and I can say this as a safe space now because, I understand the value of, what it really did. So, as the training progressed, it was a very self-reflection, self-discovery kind of a training program. And that was the first that I had attended. I had attended induction programs before, but induction programs are more or less very technical in nature.
Correct.
You would be kind of, acquainted as to what are the systems, what are the processes in the organization in which you kind of get aligned.
True.
For the first time, I had this thing, I had this experience which was very, very, very self-discovery, very self-reflective kind of a thing. And what it actually opened up, not just for me, but I think for the other participants also there, was that, everybody just started, just loosened up a little, everybody warmed up a little. And there were a lot of issues that were discussed in terms of, how the leadership was, why we need to be a certain way. And what was also very, very interesting for me to see was that, because I think, there was this space that was created in the training room where we were all seated, that, nothing was taken in the form that, somebody's trying to blame me or somebody's trying to blame the leadership. The way it was looked at was that, together we are all brainstorming to kind of, grow as an organization.
Right.
And together we are trying to figure out that, what are those lags or what are those loopholes, which if we can kind of, plug in effectively, plug in with the best, solutions, we can actually go to the next level. And that came like a big eye opener for me, because then I realized that, this is the power of creating the right environment. This is the power of being able to kind of, allow people to reflect, allow people to kind of, look within and come up with things without really feeling that, you are accusing somebody of something and, you're blaming or, not really driving it in the right way. So, that was my first encounter with how trainings worked. And it was also like a love at first sight kind of a feel that, I just fell in love with trainings, and it just became like, that, this is how I would want to conduct and this is what I would want to do, going forward. And since then, it's been about like 22 years, 22 years now. I think all my efforts have been towards, creating that kind of a space. And thankfully, to a great extent, I have been able to create those kind of safe spaces whenever I'm doing my training sessions. I have some amazing reflections which come from people, where people open up, they share their experiences. There have been instances where we have talked about etiquettes, where we have talked about sensitive topics like, how do you, something as I would not call it as trivial, but something which is very, very prominent, which happens in the organizations, that you go for a party, there is drinks on the house. How do you really drink, and how do you drink responsibly, and what kind of impact does it create, or what kind of language do you use, especially when you're stressed out and you are in the organization. A lot of times you don't really realize that what kind of language have I started using, like you just lose the etiquettes part of it. But what was the best thing was that even senior professionals confessed that we have been doing this, but we are going to be more mindful as to how do we drink more responsibly, or maybe the kind of language that they use. And it just comes like okay, fine. So you're just very, very receptive of the whole idea. That you're not going to be judged. You're just there to kind of know yourself a little better, explore yourself, and just work on yourself. And that's the whole idea. And that is also the basic essence on which the behavioral skill trainings work. It's all about how do you kind of look at yourself, what is it that you want to create for yourself, the mindset shift that you're talking about, the behavioral changes that you're talking about. It's not something that will happen in a jiffy. Time लगता है किसी भी behavioral change या mindset shift को होने के लिए. But if you have been able to realize कि हाँ ठीक है, this is where I'm kind of deviating, this is where I'm not going right, it's like half the battle won. फिर आपको ये पता है कि कौन सी areas हैं जहाँ आपको improve करना है, या कौन से areas हैं जहाँ पे आपको काम करना है. So for me, that has been the journey, and that is what I try to create with whatever sessions that I have conducted. My effort is first to kind of work on that, allow people to kind of relax, open up as much as they can, so that the learning is actually accepted, received well, and it just gets applied the way it needs to be applied.
Right. So, and 22 years of experience onto the same thing. It's really huge.
I always say that, I say that, a lot of it comes because of a certain age. By the time, you reach a certain age, that, I mean, certain things are just there, and you just kind of, go along with that flow and just allow it to happen.
So if I talk about your vision, mission and goal for next 5 to 10 years from now, so what do you think that should be?
So for me, the goal that I really have for myself is that, I want to, so I'm not really in the lines of competing with maybe a McKinsey or, the Big Four and all of that. But yeah, the aspiration comes from there. I really would want to kind of, establish myself in the space of organization development, in the space of consulting, and that's what we're kind of working towards it. So a very a kind of a boutique organization which takes care of consulting assignments and trainings with organizations, especially organizations not so we do have a lot of mid-sized organizations where people issues are still going to be there. Everybody wants to scale up. Everybody wants to navigate through changes. Everybody wants to grow in a certain way. And for me, if I can be partnering with these organizations and helping them strategize and, working along with them to kind of, fulfill the vision that they have in terms of growth, in terms of productivity, working along with their people to kind of, become more productive, to kind of, be productive, not just because the organization needs it, but also because you as an individual need achievements for yourself. Correct. So, that's the goal that I have, to create a consulting firm towards which we kind of, are working on. The vision is to be able to help organizations, navigate this growth, navigate this change, working both with employees to be able to help them understand their potential and achieve it, and also working with the leadership to be able to drive these changes or drive this growth that we are talking about. Because, it's in either cases, it's people driven, but you need to have the right leaders in place with the right kind of mindset to be able to drive whatever that you're trying to drive. So, working with both of them, and that is more or less what I'm doing now also, create leaders where, we are talking about a lot of mindset shift and, how can they be more inclusive? How can they be more, engaging? How can they bring in a lot of these ideas in place so that, they can have a more growth oriented work culture in their organization. And obviously working with the employees, because they are at the receiving end, they are the ones who are kind of, they are the ones who run the show most of the time.
They are the
But
contributors actually.
absolutely. I mean, they are the ones who run the show, यार. अगर हम उनके ऊपर focus नहीं करेंगे तो how exactly हमारी पूरी machinery बैठ जाएगी.
Correct.
Right. So, they need to be at the core of the things. They need to be at the crux of everything that we design. So that's the vision, and that is the goal that
Best
we
wishes
have.
to you. Like you mentioned that
Thank you so
McKinsey or
much.
similar kind of company we can create in India. Definitely, we have huge potential, not only in terms of the knowledge and skills, but also the resources. We have huge
Absolutely.
resources, so definitely it can be possible. So best wishes to you. Hope that
Thank you
will
so much.
be soon happening. So if I talk about the most important life lessons you have learned from your personal or professional journey so far, so what are those 2-3 learnings you would like to share with us?
Okay, so quite a few. As people, we are always work in progress, so a lot of learning lessons. But if I need to just pick up, 2-3 of them, one would be that, keep building bridges as many as we can, because it's so much more easier to burn bridges and keep moving on. But it's very difficult to kind of, sustain relationships, have good relationships, even if it is not oriented to just work, maybe, just pinging people and just figuring out that, if everybody is all right and if things are all right with everyone. So, it really goes a long way, especially in the world today where, people are gradually kind of, just moving in their own zones where they are becoming very, very isolated. We keep hearing of a lot of mental health issues now that keep coming up just because, we are not really getting the right human connect. So, keep building those bridges, not giving up on relationships, just allowing people to kind of, move along with you is one lesson that I've kind of learned. Have lived by it also. I, value my relations very, very closely to my heart. And the other thing that I think, over a period of time that I have learned is that, whatever that you do, your credibility is obviously built by the competence that you carry. So you need to keep working on the competence. But at the same time, it is important to understand that, we are all humans. We would not know everything all the time. And, आप किसी भी topic को पकड़ेंगे तो, there would be some things that you would know, there would be some that you might not know. But being honest in your conversations, being honest in your communication with people is also something which goes a long way in building that credibility. Because that's where people realize that, you are not there to kind of, take them for a ride. You are there to kind of, work with them. You're there to partner with them. You understand that, what are your strengths, you understand what are your weaknesses, and you're ready to work on it. And honesty never goes out of fashion. So, rather than trying to just figure out kya kare, kya nahi kare, just be upfront, be honest. Say that, this is, if you goof up, just accept that, there has been a goof up. We need to call the elephant out in the room. We cannot progress ahead if we do not really do that. So, these are 2 or 3 very important lessons. I live by them also. I have kind of, I try building up things which are sustainable in nature so that, it doesn't come crumbling because it's like one odd day something went viral and then tomorrow nobody knows you, but something which is more sustainable, which will kind of, go a long way. And I think...
so for a longer perspective, we should follow these things in our daily routine, not only professionally, but also personally as well. So that will really help. So on to your work, like you are engaging with employees, with the organizations. Onto this, like how does employee engagement positively impact productivity levels within the organization, and what strategies can be implemented to enhance employee engagement?
Sure. So see, before I answer that, before I talk about individuals and employees, let's also understand that, how exactly the organization works. When we think of an organization, there are different things that come to our mind, right? We talk about structures, we talk about strategy, we talk about product, we talk about processes, we talk about, what are the different stakeholders, we talk about, what is the hierarchy that is followed, what is the kind of a culture that the organization has. But what is it that kind of, it kind of binds everything is the people. You talk about strategy, it's people who are going to be working on that. You talk about stakeholders, there are people, your investors, your customers, your vendors, everybody. There are people all over the place. So अगर हम उनके ऊपर ध्यान नहीं देते हैं, that means we are simply doing something which is not right, because they are the ones who are driving the entire thing. As I said, they are the ones who are running the show. The day they decide that, abhi ho gaya and I really don't want to work, they can actually pull the curtain down and you would be left to, fend for yourself. So the reason why, this whole thing of, how employee engagement works, or why exactly it is, when you have people who are working with you, when you have engagement, basically it talks about people who are emotionally invested in the company. Because when somebody is emotionally, psychologically invested in the company, that's the time, they would want to stretch for you. They would want to go beyond whatever is expected of them. They would want to kind of, do everything that is needed for the organization to grow. So your employees, the way they are engaged in the organization, drives what kind of productivity, what is the revenue that the company is going to be generating. All of that gets driven by what is the kind of engagement that people have. So some of these strategies that we normally talk about, it's very essential to make people, feel that they belong to the place. Okay, making them heard, like, hear them out, make them a part of your decision making. It's important to kind of, hear their viewpoints. A lot of times, a lot of them keep working on the ground. They have a lot of valuable insights to share. So take those inputs, give them a culture which makes them feel that, they are cared for. So we often talk about these days, we often talk about creating a culture of care, creating a culture of learning, creating a culture of growth. Why are these things important? Because these things really kind of, drive them. These things kind of, really engage them. They make them feel that, I basically own this place, or this place is mine. Until the time, you don't get that feel that this place is mine, for you are always going to be like a guest to that place. Aaj hai, kal nahi hai. And the reason why it has become all the more important is because this is the generation which is coming in now. And, I often have this discussion now, with people of obviously my age, where we say that, this generation, ye wali generation hai na, dil nahi lagati hai kahin pe, na kaam mein, na apne personal life mein.
Right.
So when you have a generation of millennials coming in, the Gen Z which is coming in, which is very, very practical, how to create that kind of an environment. Otherwise, whatever you will keep doing, today you train them, you invest in them, tomorrow they are gone for some better options. There would always be better options.
Correct.
But how do we hold them? So, when we have engaged employees, our retentions are taken care of. People love to come back to work. Their stressors are a lot less. Their motivators are a lot more higher. Their engagements are a lot more higher. Their drivers are a lot more higher. So, it just kind of becomes a win-win situation for the organization, for the employee. And that's the reason why, there is so much of a focus that at least, I have in terms of, why you need to work with your employees so much. Give them a succession plan and make them understand that, we are all here to kind of, support you. We are all here to see to it that, you grow to in a certain way. You, you have your goals in place. You kind of, accomplish those goals. And it's an accomplishment which is like for the entire team. So everybody celebrates it, recognize them. Even if you're not rewarding them all the time, if you're not really calling them, give them the right kind of feedbacks.
Correct.
Tell them that, what is working right, what is not working right. Appreciate at the right time. It goes a long way in, making them feel good. It's all about, making the people around you feel good. If they are feeling good about the reason as to why they're there, believe me, they're going to create such a happy ambience around you. Everybody would feel like working. फिर उसके बाद 8 घंटे का 10 घंटे हो जाएगा. Nobody is really going to bother. I have to. I just want to do it because I'm just so invested in my work. I'm just so invested in my workplace. And that's what we all want to drive, right? So, and it's just so easy. It's just so easy. You just have to be there. Just listen to them and talk to them, and you get to understand what can be done. So it's not something which is like a rocket science. लोगों के साथ काम करना is not rocket science at all. It's just about basic human understanding. What works and what doesn't work. And it just kind of, is taken together.
And engagement leads to connectivity among people. That is really important. People don't understand this thing. So if you connect with your employees well, you engage with them well on various matters, various topics, discussions. So they can also create something for the benefit of the organization. So there the connectivity as well as the what we call it as the loyalty towards the organization builds in.
Absolutely. And everybody around feels supported. You feel included into the whole discussion. Now, we have these mandates for diversity. You have diverse workforces coming in, different genders coming in, different ethnicities, different races. How are you going to work if you're not kind of, allowing them that kind of a space to work and make them feel...
mentioned some of the factors, but I'm asking about what are the key factors or major factors that contribute for high employee engagement, and how leaders can manage effectively foster a culture of engagement within their teams.
Sure. So as leaders, I think, as I said that, create that strong culture of care, listen to people around you. Okay. Make them a part of the decision making, as take their inputs, give them a kind of, allow them to, have more purpose driven work. Whatever their strengths, identify those strengths, give them work accordingly, so that everybody feels aligned, and they feel that whatever my strengths are have been able to been put to use. Give them a succession plan, tell them that how exactly are they going to grow in the organization, understand what their goals are, align those goals with the organization goals, help them achieve those goals. So create that support system so that their goals are achieved. And once those goals are aligned to the organizational goals, what you're essentially doing is you are achieving the goals of the organization as well.
True.
So
And sometimes what happens is leaders assign tasks and responsibilities without informing the employee or the teammate that this additional responsibility will help you build your skills for taking it to the next level. So they don't inform them, they don't discuss them how it will help them. So what happens is the resistance comes in from the side of the employee. Why should I work extra? What would be my benefit? So there sometimes gap arises.
Sometimes, a lot of times, these communication gaps which keep arising a lot of times, because you would think in a certain way, you would feel that I'm just trying to align everything, but as I said, everybody comes with different perspectives. Maybe I'm not receiving it the way you are trying to share it with me. Correct. So that's the reason why we often say that have very regular feedback systems, check-in systems, where you can talk to your employees, you can talk to your team, you can tell them that this is what we have designed for you, this is where we are kind of putting you, because these are the strengths that we have realized that you have. So make it clear rather than making it ambiguous in terms of the conversations that you have. Make them clear and crisp, give them clear and crisp instructions, give them clear and crisp understanding, so that they are also aligned. It's not necessary na ki hamare dimag mein chal raha hai, unke bhi dimag mein chal raha hoga. Sure. Maybe they have not been able to see it. So किसी भी communication का जो whatever the basic funda is that it needs to be clear. Whatever that you're trying to communicate or convey should get conveyed. So don't keep anything to assumptions and समझ लेगा या हम बता देंगे बाद में, that kind of a thing. Give clear instructions, give clear roadmaps. This is what is this is what I have in mind, and also take their inputs on that. This is what I have in mind for you. Now, how do you think? So when you feel a party to the decision that has been taken, you have the ownership of that. Right. So then in that case, I don't have to push you. You will be motivated, self-motivated to do that and, take the required actions and bring them into, take them to the next level. So have informed decision making, have, people around you informed about, what exactly are you planning to do with them, take their inputs, ask them for their viewpoints, share it with everybody, so that give them the credit for the work they have been doing. Even if there are efforts, not everything that you're doing would lead to accomplishment, but still there are efforts that have been put in. So acknowledging those efforts, giving them the right kind of credit for their efforts goes a long way, especially when it comes from the leaders or the managers. It just kind of boosts their morale like anything. So bring these small things into practice, and it just kind of becomes an easy sailing for the leaders also.
That is why the role of leader is so crucial, that if they engage their teammates effectively, not only it will help them to grow, but it will help the entire team to grow. So
absolutely.
That is really important.
Yeah. And when it comes from the leaders, these compliments, it just gives you such a strong kick. You absolutely on cloud 9. You're like, abhi hum kuch bhi kar lenge. Because, ma'am has said this or sir has said this, and, you get acknowledged.
Correct.
It's much more than what your, promotions or what money would do for you. It's that kind of a hype. So,
the backing of and support from the leader can create magic in lives of their teammates. So they are supercharged. They are ready to for any challenge. Numbers, exactly. If you put them with any numbers and collaboratively, they can achieve anything.
Absolutely. And they're huge motivators.
Yes, that's really wonderful. So on to this further, if I ask you, in what ways organization can measure and assess employee engagement, and how they can create insights gained from these assessments by using identify areas of improvement or enhance overall productivity and performance.
Absolutely. So there are various ways in which you can, measure the engagement of the employees in the organization. We conduct very in-depth, employee engagement surveys, which basically it talks about, various parameters of engagement, the sense of belonging, as I said, what kind of a culture is there, whether they feel supported enough or not, whether they feel they have this clarity of how their career is going to be moving in what direction, what kind of leadership, is there, what kind of expectations do they have from the organization. So very in-depth, employee engagement surveys are conducted. We also have a lot of one-on-one interviews with people and key stakeholders to understand or get a pulse of what exactly is the engagement level in any organization, which kind of helps us to design interventions wherever they are required. The other things that we also do is pulse surveys, or those very very short surveys which are which is done very very frequently in order to understand that if there's something that you're trying to roll out, or if there's something pressing, you kind of quickly get an input from people. We can conduct focus group discussions with if you're pressed for time, you really don't have that kind of a time, you do focus group discussions, get inputs from people, understand that how exactly do they feel engaged with the organization, whether there is an engagement, whether there is not an engagement. Other than that, we also do things like these social network analysis kind of a thing, where you kind of analyze the social quotient of the organization or the employees, and understand that what kind of relationships do they have, what are the interpersonal skills, what is the kind of a support system that is there, how engaged are they, how have they been communicating over the various groups that are there. So there are different ways. Exit interviews is another way, but exit interviews is mostly to kind of so all of these things, or all of these surveys or discussions or interviews that we do are basically just in order to understand what is the level of engagement that the organization has. Now when you once you start analyzing whatever inputs that you get, you then frame these strategies and understand that what are the things that are going right, what are the things that are not happening right, what are the different strategies that can be brought in place to be able to kind of drive the engagement levels that we are talking about, and how then you kind of correlate it with the productivity of the organization, or the revenue that the organization generates. So all of these various diagnostic methods lead into strategizing, because that's where the crux of the whole thing is. सिर्फ सर्वे करके छोड़ दिया या सिर्फ इंटरव्यू करके छोड़ दिया तो उसका कोई मतलब नहीं बनता है. You kind of close the loop, you identify that अच्छा ठीक है, this is what the report looks like, or this is what the employees have been sharing, what are those facts which are very very glaring, so उसके लिए क्या strategies ला सकते हैं. So you create those intervention strategies, execute those strategies. So sometimes you might need to just kind of do training sessions, sometimes you might need to coach people, sometimes you just need to understand that this is what is already happening. Some small bit of changes here and there would kind of align people. So design the intervention, and then you kind of execute the whole thing and see the impact. So keep monitoring whatever that you are doing, just keep monitoring it at regular intervals as to what exactly whatever that you had decided. 3 months time, have you been able to see any change? Another 6 months time, have you been able to see any change? If there's an evaluation required, do we need to kind of re-intervene? Is there something which is still not happening right? So all of these things take a little time, and this is something that we all need to understand. This is not a jadoo ka chhadi ki matlab aaj engagement survey kiya and then tomorrow everybody is very very engaged. It doesn't happen that way. It takes a little time. OD interventions are all time consuming interventions, but yes, definitely result oriented. You get the results that you're talking about, but again we need to understand that we are working with people, not with machine. मशीन नहीं है ना ये कि भाई आपने एक तरीके से चालू कर दिया और वैसे ही चालू सब काम रहेगा.
How much is the probability of biasness in these interventions or these surveys or these interactions?
No, so the bias is taken care of. Why? Because most of the organizations or most of the OD consultants are basically external consultants. So as an external consultant, the idea is, the reason why it is handed over to external consultant is that you would get neutral opinions and not the biased opinions. अगर आप अपने organization से ही किसी को बोलेंगे ये करने के लिए, तो there is always a probability that there would be some amount of bias also, because I need to save my job. I also need to make the leaders happy. But as an external consultant, I don't have any such reasons not to be neutral. And also because I'm hired for that. I'm hired to give you a clear view. So right in the beginning, when we are talking about, before even we begin with the diagnostic, this is something which we already contract for, saying that, now whatever it is, whatever the report says, we are going to be presenting it to you. with our recommendations as to what are the things that needs to be done.
Correct.
But it needs to be taken in the right spirit, because we don't have any ulterior motives, na. हमारा तो कुछ लगा नहीं है company में, right? If you're hiring an external consultant, it's because you want to get a clearer 360-degree view as to what exactly is going right and what is not going right in the organization.
True.
So it is not biased. It's neutral. And if somebody ever tries to tilt it, then as a consultant, as a somebody who's executing the program, then you need to be able to stand for yourself and say, I don't think it is going to work, because it's kind of defying the spirit of the entire activity if you tilt it to either side. So look at it in very unbiased, neutral way and do things. कुछ चीजें आप तुरंत कर सकेंगे, कुछ interventions हो सकता है कि you might take a little time to think through them. You might not have the right resources, right mindset to do them right away. But it's our job to recommend what is the best, and that's what we try to do.
That is the role of an external consultant.
Absolutely.
Comes into in place. So,
and that is where mostly it is handed over also to the external consultants, ताकि कोई ये bias कहीं पे in play नहीं आए, and you get a clear.
Earlier organizations used to do it internally, but now these days most of the organizations are getting it done through external consultants. So that's really wonderful, because engagement levels are also improving. There are some flaws within the organization which is not supporting employees to come up further, but still the progress is there.
Right.
Now moving back to you again, so on to you, like what is your take on success? What do you feel about it?
Okay, so my take on success, success, it's very different for everybody, right? So for somebody it would be like the accomplishment that you have. If you've been able to earn maybe a certain amount of money, you feel very successful. I think my take on success is still very ambiguous, I would say. I always feel that, as individuals, we are always a work in progress. As organizations also, we are always a work in progress. There's never and we should always be a work in progress, because you achieve one milestone, then you move to the next one, and then you move to the next one. The day you start feeling that ab kaam khatam ho gaya hai, that means the stagnancy starts to hit you. So success for me is it's just like a very floating thing, one milestone to another. I think if I need to just define it in one line, I would say what Maya Angelou says, that it's about liking yourself, liking the work that you do it, and liking how you do it. So I would just tweak it a little. I think for me, success is loving myself, because it's been a wonderful journey of past 22 years, the way I see myself from where I started and where I am today. So loving myself much more, because I've been able to make steady progress and do things that I really enjoy doing. Loving the work that I do, and I just love the work how I do it. So
right.
With complete passion and complete integrity, and just being all out and just being myself and giving it out completely.
Really wonderful thoughts. So if I talk about we are on last question. So if I ask you any message or advice you would like to share with our viewers and listeners?
Sure. So mostly because I work with organizations and I work with individuals, that one message that I would want to give them is that, connect with people around you. It's important to know them, know the people who work in your organization, and it really pays. It pays to be honest with them. It pays to invest in them. And, together the journey becomes a lot more beautiful. So that's all is my take.
So connect and collaborate.
Absolutely. Connect, collaborate, and keep growing.
Keep growing is really important.
Yeah.
Right. So I must say we have had an amazing discussion, wonderful thoughts we have shared. And the story you have shared about you, your journey, and also the work you are doing was really wonderful, interesting, and inspiring too. So I really enjoyed the conversation and looking forward to hear more soon again on different topics you are working on related to organization development and people development, of course. So to create some newer perspective from the thing which you are doing, but we will try to find out something new from that. So that is what I'm trying to look at. So thank you so very much for your time. It was wonderful having you here today. I really enjoyed the conversation. Not only that, but I've learned many things as well.
Thank you so much, Jitendra. It was a pleasure for me as well to connect and talk to you and share these insights with you. So I really look forward to coming back on the platform again and sharing other things with you other time.
Sure. And also, I will share your website and social media link along with this so that people
Okay,
can be in touch with you, take your help and guidance also. So,
sure.
guys, don't forget to check that out too. Thank you so very much, everyone, for watching and listening. I hope you all must have gathered a lot of information and enjoyed watching it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Have a good time. Thank you, and bye bye.